Hello there, I am Brooks Gibbs, and I am so very excited to share another little lesson of life with you here today. The lessons of life are just amazing little principles and stories that you can take into your life and one at a time look at a principle and how it may relate to how you're living your life and turn that into something that you can change to bring greater joy, happiness, and peace in your life. Or maybe share this story with someone else so that they can find what they're looking for in their life to create change. So, what I want to share with you today is a story I call The Funhouse. Now, this story is about facing your fears and working through them, and how we all look at the same things differently. This story comes because about 3 years ago, I worked at booth at the state fair. For the fair, we were there for 10 straight days. And as you know, a fair comes to town, and along comes with it this carnival portion that has rides and all kinds of attractions to go to. Well, the booth that I was sitting at was right across from the fun house for kids that were 12 and under. The fun house. Well, what was the fun house? The fun house was literally, it was kind of like this obstacle course that you would go through. It had on it little discs that would turn and things that you would roll over and ladders to climb and ropes and adventures. It had little bags that hung down that you would run through. And all of this was on this, basically this semi-trailer so that it could pack up and move to the next city. And they went through this whole thing and they came to the very back end of the trailer. And at the very back end was the last obstacle before they would get off the trailer to meet family and go on to the next adventure. Now, this last obstacle was the barrel roll. Now, the barrel roll is really interesting because it's a barrel that stands about 6 feet in diameter, and it just slowly turns. And inside of it is painted this stripe that corkscrews around so you can see it slowly turning. And the object was to walk through this barrel. Now, the barrel would be something that would be turning, so obviously you start on firm ground that you know, and you go into something that you don't. It's moving, it's turning, and you may or may not be able to hold your balance. So it was really interesting over the 10 days that I was at the fair to watch literally hundreds of kids take on this adventure in the funhouse. And there would be those that would get in and they would run through every adventure. And they'd come to the very end, and I was the perfect spot where I could see exactly how they were going to take on this last adventure. And it was funny, I saw 3 types of reactions. There are those who would come up to that and they would see it and boom, they would just run. They would just literally run through it. It didn't faze them, it didn't bother them, nothing. They just, boom, they were through it and they were done. They didn't even stop to look at it, they just right through it. Cakewalk, easy, no problem. They ranged at any age, from the young to the old, who did it, took it on in that way. Then there was another group who would come up to it and they would stop and they would look at it for a minute, and then they would slowly get in and they would kind of feel their way, and it would, throw them off balance, and they would work their way through, and they might fall down or whatever. They might get up and they might play with it, whatever, but they would move through it little by little. Then there was the third type of individual. This would be someone who'd come up to it and they would look at it and they would stop and they would look at it and then they would look back and they'd look at it again and they'd look back again, and you could just see the fear rise up inside of them. This was something they couldn't do. It was fearful. They would not. Some of them might touch with their toe. They'd take their toe and lightly touch what was in front of them and then pull it back and not go there. And then They wouldn't move forward. They were frozen. And they would want to turn around and go backwards, but they couldn't go backwards because there were kids that were piling up behind them. So they were stuck. And they felt the pressure of not being able to move forward, and yet the pressure of people behind them saying, go ahead, move, no problem, man, because behind them were people who wanted to run through it, play it, do whatever else. But they couldn't do that. What is the lesson of life from that? Well, I pondered that over the days, and I thought about it a lot since I was at the fair, and here's what I've learned from that particular thing. The obstacle was absolutely the same. It never changed. It was the same size, it was the same shape, it rotated at the same speed. It was not a different obstacle for anyone who encountered it. The only difference was what was perceived by the person who showed up in front of it, and how they chose to look at that obstacle and define it as it related to them and their perceived capabilities, their strengths, and the things that they wanted to do, and what that would do to challenge them. For those who came at it and ran through it, they had the perception, cool, this is fun. I'm excited about this. Boom, they just ran through it. It was not a problem. They didn't mentally stop themselves from progressing through it. And so therefore punched right through it. In life, look back at times when you've seen something ahead of you and you've just gone, no big deal. Boom, you just pushed right through it. And in no time at all, you were done. It was an obstacle that others are sitting back there and they can't move through because they don't trust in themselves or their environment to be able to do that. Then there were those who looked at it and kind of get in and played around with it. It took a long time to get through. And again, it was all in their perception. In your life, are there challenges and obstacles that you're kind of fighting and you're working your way through them? Well, if you're in the middle of that, you got a couple of choices. You can continue to fight it, or you can surrender to it and enjoy it and play with it and then walk through it and find it to be a wonderful journey. Or you can look at the obstacle and say, there's no way. And you can absolutely convince yourself from your thoughts that you can paralyze yourself to where you will not take the action to move forward through it. Now, what are the things that I've learned from this? That fear is something that absolutely can propel you or it can pull you. It's the choice that you get to make. So what I've determined is that fear is a friend. It's actually there to teach me something. Fear can come up and say, you're just not familiar with this. It isn't always saying, stop, don't do it. You don't have the capability. It's saying, be aware. Be conscious of what's happening. Now, what you could do is choose to move forward and experiment, or believe in yourself and just move forward and make it happen. Or you can have it to freeze. Freeze you physically, emotionally, and have no capability to move forward. So what I want to do is suggest to you, look at where you're at in your life. Do you have places where you are paralyzed in fear? Ask yourself the following question. Is it physically going to hurt me to do this? Or is it just something that I'm unaware of, and because I'm afraid I might be embarrassed or whatever else, what does that matter? If what's on the other side is the goal and the obstacle of what you want to get to, move forward through it. Learn to play with it, enjoy it, or just charge through it. But don't allow yourself to be paralyzed in fear for something that truly can't hurt you, but only give you a great lesson. That is the lesson of life. And that is the lesson of the Fun House. I hope this lesson helps you look at your fears and how you're taking them on, and gives you the opportunity to choose how you perceive what that fair is, and how to move forward. My name is Brooks Gibbs, and I am so appreciative of you enjoying this journey of the little lessons of life. Thank you.